My grandkids were invisible at family dinners, so I quietly took back everything he left them. You know what hurts most? It's not the big moments, it's not the shouting or the slamming doors, it's the small things. The way someone looks past a child like they're furniture, the way a name gets left off a birthday card list, the way a plate gets set at the table and then quietly removed when no one thinks you're watching. That's what they did to my grandchildren, my son's kids. Emma and Lucas, 7 and 9 years old when my father died, when their great-grandfather, my dad, passed away, and I watched it happen. Week after week, month after month, I watched my brother's family treat my grandkids like they were ghosts in their own family. Let me back up. Let me tell you who I am, because that matters. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 65 years old now, but this story starts 3 years ago when I was 62 and my father was dying. My dad, Thomas Hayes, he was 89, worked 2 jobs his whole life, never complained, never asked for anything. I remember being a kid, maybe 8 years old, and he'd come home from the factory at 6, eat dinner standing up at the kitchen counter, and then head out to his second job doing bookkeeping for small businesses in town. He did that for 30 years. 30 years of double shifts. So his kids, me and my brother Richard, could have what he never had. And you know what he loved most in his final years? My grandkids, Emma and Lucas. Every Sunday, weather permitting, I'd bring them to his house, that little 2-bedroom place on Maple Street where I grew up. The paint was peeling, the porch creaked. But inside, in that small living room with the worn carpet and the old recliner that smelled like Old Spice and coffee, my dad would light up like Christmas morning when those kids walked in. He taught Lucas how to tie fishing knots, sat there with hands that shook from age and arthritis, guiding those small fingers through the loops and twists. "There you go, buddy," he'd say, his voice rough but warm. "That's a clinch knot. That'll hold anything." He'd read to Emma old books from my childhood, Charlotte's Web, Where the Wild Things Are. She'd curl up next to him in that recliner, her head on his shoulder, and he'd read every word, even when I could tell he was tired, even when his voice got weak. Those were good days, simple days, the kind of days that matter when you're looking back on a life. My brother Richard, he wasn't around for those Sundays. Richard was busy. Richard had important things to do. Richard's kids, Madison and Tyler, they had soccer tournaments and debate competitions and charity galas that required the whole family's attendance. Richard married well, as they say. His wife, Christine, comes from money, real money, the kind where you say summer as a verb and people know you mean the house in Martha's Vineyard. Their kids went to private schools, their Christmas cards were professionally photographed. And my kids? My son David, he's a good man, works in HVAC, married his high school sweetheart, Jenny. They live in a modest house about 2 miles from where I live. They're not rich, they're not poor, they're normal. Working people, like me, like my dad was. But at family gatherings, you could feel the difference. Thanksgiving 2021, that was the year before Dad died. We were all at Richard's house. Of course, we were at Richard's house. It was always at Richard's house because Richard's house could accommodate everyone. That's what Christine would say. We have the space to accommodate everyone. The house was beautiful, I'll admit that. One of those modern colonials with the white pillars and the perfectly manicured lawn. Inside, everything matched. Everything was designer. The kind of place where you're afraid to set your coffee cup down without a coaster. Dinner was served at 2 o'clock. Turkey, stuffing, 3 kinds of potatoes, green bean casserole, the works. All laid out on this massive dining table that could seat 14 people. And here's what I remember, here's what I'll never forget. They set the table for 12. Madison and Tyler, Richard's kids, they were seated right in the middle. Places of honor on either side of their grandmother, Richard's wife's mother, who flew in from Connecticut for the occasion. My grandkids, Emma and Lucas, they were at a separate folding table in the corner of the room. a kids' table, Christine called it, except Madison was only 11 and Tyler was 13, and they got to sit at the main table. My 7-year-old and 9-year-old were shuffled off to the corner with paper plates. Paper plates, while everyone else had the good china. I started to say something. I felt my jaw tighten, felt the words forming. But my son, David, he touched my arm, gave me this look that said, "Don't, please, not today." So I didn't. I sat there and I ate turkey that tasted like cardboard in my mouth, and I watched my grandchildren sit in that corner, and I said nothing. My father, though, my dad noticed, he was sitting at the head of the table. They gave him that at least, and he kept looking over at Emma and Lucas. I saw him frown, saw him lean over and whisper something to Richard. Richard just shrugged, said something I couldn't hear. Dad's face went hard, the way it used to when I was a kid, and I disappointed him somehow. But he was 86 then and tired, and he didn't have the energy to fight about seating arrangements at Thanksgiving dinner. But I saw him watching those kids all afternoon, watching them sit in that corner, watching how Madison got seconds brought to her at the table while Lucas had to get up and walk across the room to the serving dishes. Watching how Christine complimented Madison's dress 3 times but never said a word to Emma about the new sweater Ginny had bought her special for Thanksgiving. On the drive home, Dad rode with us. My wife, Helen, was driving. She's always been the steady one in our family, the one who keeps her head when emotions run high. Dad was quiet for a long time in the passenger seat, staring out the window. Finally, he said, "Those are good kids, Walter." "They are," I said from the back seat where I was sitting between Emma and Lucas. "Emma's got your mother's smile," he said. "And Lucas, he's smart, really smart. Did you see how he helped clear plates without being asked?" I did. Another long silence, then. "I'm going to make sure they're taken care of, Walt. After I'm gone, I'm going to make sure they get something. They deserve it." I leaned forward. "Dad, you don't have to." "I want to," he said. His voice was firm, final. "I already talked to my lawyer. There's going to be a trust for Emma and Lucas. It's not a fortune, but it's something. About $30,000 each. From my savings, my life insurance. I want them to have it when they're old enough. College money, or a down payment on their first house, whatever they need." My throat felt tight. "Dad, thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "I should have set it up years ago. I just kept putting it off, thinking I had more time." He coughed, a wet sound that worried me, "But I'm doing it now. I'm doing it right. The lawyer says it'll be a simple trust. You'll be the trustee. You'll manage it until they're 25. Then they each get their share." Emma, sitting next to me, asked, "What's a trust, Grandpa?" He turned in his seat to smile at her. "It's a promise, sweetheart. It's Grandpa's promise that you and your brother will have something special waiting for you when you grow up." That was November 2021. By March 2022, Dad was in the hospital. Pneumonia. His lungs had been weak for years from all those decades of smoking when he was young before he quit. The pneumonia settled in deep and his body just gave up fighting. Richard and I took turns sitting with him. Those last few days, he drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes he'd wake up and know exactly where he was. Other times he'd think it was 1967 and I was still in high school. But there was one moment 2 days before he died when his eyes opened and he looked right at me. Clear-eyed, present. "The trust," he whispered. "You got the papers?" "I have them, Dad." "Everything's signed and filed. The lawyer has copies. It's all set up exactly how you wanted." He nodded, satisfied. Good. Take care of those kids, Walter. Don't let anybody..." He trailed off, coughing. "Don't let anybody what?" "Don't let them get cheated," he said. His hand gripped mine with surprising strength. "Family can be cruel sometimes. Even good people can get greedy when there's money involved. You make sure Emma and Lucas get what's theirs. You promise me. "I promise, Dad." He closed his eyes. "Good man," he whispered. Those were the last real words he said to me. He died on a Tuesday morning in March. I was there. Richard was there. The nurses were kind. It was as peaceful as those things can be. The funeral was on Friday, big turnout. Dad knew a lot of people from his decades of work and community involvement. The church was packed. Richard gave the eulogy, talked about Dad's work ethic, his dedication to family, his quiet strength. It was a good speech. Richard always was good with words. Always knew what to say in public. After the service, at the reception, I noticed something. Richard's family, Christine, Madison, Tyler, they were dressed to the nines. Designer black, Christine's dress probably cost more than my car payment. Madison and Tyler looked like they'd stepped out of a catalog. My family, we looked normal, appropriate, respectful, but normal. And I saw Christine talking to her mother, saw them glancing around the room, saw that look, that assessing look, like they were taking inventory of who mattered and who didn't. Emma tried to talk to Madison at one point. I watched it happen. Emma walked up, tried to say something about missing great-grandpa. Madison looked at her for about 2 seconds, said something short, and walked away. Emma stood there, 7 years old, looking confused and hurt. I almost said something then, almost walked over and asked Madison what the hell kind of way was that to treat her cousin. But Helen caught my eye, shook her head slightly. "Pick your battles," she whispered later. "Not today, not at his funeral." So again, I said nothing. The reading of the will happened 3 weeks later. Dad's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, handled everything. We met at his office downtown. Small place, second floor above the pharmacy. Mr. Peterson had been Dad's attorney for 40 years. Knew him well. Richard and I sat in his office in those creaky leather chairs that smelled like old books and coffee. Mr. Peterson put on his reading glasses and opened a folder. "Your father's estate is fairly straightforward," he said. "The house on Maple Street, as you know, is paid off. Current value is approximately $180,000. He specified that it should be sold and the proceeds split evenly between his two sons, Walter and Richard. That's 50-50. Richard nodded, making notes on his phone, always making notes. His savings accounts and remaining assets after funeral expenses and debts come to approximately $94,000. Again, split evenly between his two sons. More nodding from Richard. I just sat there, feeling sad, hearing my father's entire life reduced to dollar amounts and property values. Finally, Mr. Peterson continued, "There is the matter of the trust established for his great-grandchildren, Emma Hayes and Lucas Hayes. Your father set up a trust fund using a portion of his life insurance policy. The trust is funded with $60,000, $30,000 designated him for each child to be held in trust until they reach the age of 25. Walter Hayes is named as trustee." Richard's head snapped up. "I'm sorry, what?" "The trust for Emma and Lucas," Mr. Peterson repeated. "Your father established it last December. It's irrevocable and fully funded." Richard's face went carefully neutral. $60,000. Yes, $30,000 each. For Walter's grandchildren specifically. Correct. Richard sat back in his chair. I could see him calculating, could see the wheels turning. "And my children? Madison and Tyler?" Mr. Peterson looked uncomfortable. "Your father did not establish trusts for Madison and Tyler. The trust is specifically for Emma and Lucas Hayes." A long silence filled the room. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking, could hear traffic outside on Main Street. "I see," Richard finally said. His voice was cold, clipped. I spoke up. "Dad loved all his grandkids, Richard. He wanted to help Emma and Lucas. They're going to need it more for college, and I'm sure they will, Richard interrupted. His tone suggested the conversation was over. Mr. Peterson, please forward all the necessary documents. Walter and I will need to discuss the sale of the house and the distribution of assets. We left the office together, walked out into the spring sunshine. Richard's BMW was parked in the lot next to my old Honda. We need to talk about this, Richard said. About what? About Dad playing favorites from beyond the grave. I felt anger spike in my chest. He wasn't playing favorites, he was helping kids who need help. Your kids are fine. Madison and Tyler are going to be fine. They have trust funds from Christine's parents. They have college savings. Emma and Lucas don't have any of that. That's not the point, Richard snapped. The point is fairness. The point is equity. He had 4 great-grandchildren, and he chose 2. He chose the 2 who needed it most. He chose your grandchildren over mine, Richard said. His face was flushed. What does that say to Madison and Tyler? What message does that send? It sends the message that their great-grandfather loved them but understood they were already provided for. I shot back. Don't make this into something it isn't. Richard stared at me for a long moment. Then he got in his BMW and drove away without another word. That should have been the end of it. That should have been a done deal. Dad's wishes, clearly stated, legally binding. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The first sign that something was wrong came about 6 weeks after Dad's funeral. I was managing the trust like Dad had asked. I'd opened a separate account at the bank, transferred the $60,000 into it, made sure everything was properly documented. The money was sitting there, safe, earning a modest interest rate, nothing fancy, just secure and growing slowly until Emma and Lucas turned 25. I'd check the account online every week or so. Not because I was worried, I just wanted to make sure everything was in order, wanted to honor the responsibility Dad had given me. It was a Thursday afternoon in May. I was sitting in my home office, just a small spare bedroom with a desk and my computer. I logged into the account to check the balance. The statement showed a withdrawal. $5,000. Gone. I stared at the screen, blinked, refreshed the page thinking it was a mistake, some kind of error, but no. There it was, a withdrawal dated 3 days earlier. Wednesday, May 18th, 2022, $5,000 withdrawn by check. My hands started shaking. I immediately called the bank, asked to speak to someone about the trust account. They transferred me twice before I got someone who could access the account details. Yes, Mr. Hayes, the woman said. Her name was Barbara. She sounded young, bored. I see the withdrawal you're asking about. Check number 1001. Written for $5,000 and cashed on May 18th. Who wrote the check? I demanded. I'm the trustee. I'm the only one authorized to write checks on that account. Papers rustled on her end. The check was written and signed by, let me see, Richard Hayes. Is there a problem? My blood went cold. Richard Hayes is not authorized on that account. He's not the trustee. How did he? Sir, according to our records, Richard Hayes was added as a co-trustee on the account in April 23rd, to be specific. Do you have your paperwork? It should show. I didn't add him as a co-trustee, I interrupted. I never authorized that. Someone made a mistake. More rustling. Sir, I'm looking at the form now. It shows your signature authorizing Richard Hayes as co-trustee with equal access to the account. The signature was notarized and everything. That's not my signature, I said. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I signed something? Had Richard given me papers to sign when we were settling Dad's estate? There had been so many documents, so many forms. Sir, I recommend you come into the branch and review the documentation. If you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to file a formal complaint and possibly involve law enforcement. I drove to the bank immediately, sat down with Barbara, who turned out to be a pleasant woman in her 30s, with kind eyes and a patient demeanor. She pulled out the file. The authorization form was right there, dated April 23rd. My signature at the bottom, or what looked like my signature, a notary stamp. Official? Legal? I stared at it. I tried to remember. Had Richard brought this to me? Had he said something about just making it easier to manage Dad's affairs? Had I signed it without reading it carefully? I honestly couldn't remember. There had been so many papers after Dad died. So many forms. Richard had helped with a lot of it, had brought things by for me to sign. I'd trusted him. He was my brother. This isn't right, I said to Barbara. Even if I did sign this, it's not what I intended. The trust is for my grandchildren. Richard shouldn't have access to it. Sir, if you want to challenge this, you'll need to speak with a lawyer. The bank processed everything according to the proper procedures. If the authorization was obtained fraudulently, that's a legal matter outside our jurisdiction. I left the bank feeling sick, drove straight to Richard's house, didn't call ahead, just showed up. Christine answered the door. She was wearing yoga pants and a designer top, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She looked surprised to see me. Walter, this is unexpected. Is Richard here? He's working from home today. In his office. Is everything... I walked past her into the house. I'd never done that before. Never just barged in. But I was too angry to care about manners. Richard's office was on the first floor, a converted den with built-in bookshelves and a massive desk. He was on a video call, his laptop open. When he saw me, his eyes widened slightly. I'll call you back, he said to whoever was on the screen, and closed the laptop. Walter, what's going on? You withdrew $5,000 from Dad's trust, I said. No preamble, no pleasantries. The trust for Emma and Lucas. You took $5,000. He leaned back in his chair, calm, too calm. I borrowed it, temporarily. Borrowed it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That money isn't yours to borrow. It's not my money to borrow. It's for the kids. And it'll be back in the account before the kids need it, Richard said smoothly. Look, Walter, there was an opportunity, a good investment opportunity, short-term, high return. I saw a chance to grow that money for Emma and Lucas, and I took it. If anything, I'm doing them a favor. You had no right. I have every right, he interrupted. I'm co-trustee. Dad would have wanted both of us managing this. It makes sense. 2 people overseeing the money is better than 1. I didn't make you co-trustee, I said. You signed the form, Richard said. He opened a drawer in his desk, pulled out a folder, slid a copy of the authorization form across to me. See, your signature, notarized, legal. I looked at the form again. The signature did look like mine, but I didn't remember signing it. When did I sign this? I asked. You remember, Walt? A few weeks after the funeral. I came by your house one evening. You and Helen were going through Dad's papers, organizing everything. There were so many documents to sign, estate papers, bank forms, insurance claims. I brought this form along with the others. I told you it was just a formality to help coordinate the trust management. You were exhausted, emotional. You signed it along with everything else. The memory was hazy, but it started to come back. There had been an evening like that. Richard had come over with a stack of papers. Helen had made coffee. We'd sat at the dining room table for hours, signing document after document. I'd been so tired, so overwhelmed. Even if I did, I said slowly, you still had no right to take that. Money without telling me, that's not how a trust works. That's not what Dad wanted. Richard's expression hardened. What Dad wanted was for his family to be taken care of. All of his family. Not just your grandchildren. It's not fair, Walter. Dad left $60,000 for your grandkids and nothing for mine. Did you ever stop to think how that makes Madison and Tyler feel? Your kids have plenty, I shot back. They have college funds. They have everything they could ever need. That's not the point, Richard said, his voice rising. The point is the message it sends. The point is that Dad clearly favored your side of the family, and now you're sitting on $60,000 while my kids get nothing from their grandfather's legacy. They got their share of the estate, I said. We split everything 50-50. The house proceeds, the savings, which came to what, $90,000 each after we split it? Richard laughed bitterly. That's hardly a fortune, Walter. And meanwhile, your grandkids get an additional $30,000 each. How's that fair? Life isn't fair, I said. Dad made his choice. He wanted to help Emma and Lucas. That's his right. Richard stood up from his desk, walked around to face me. I'll have the $5,000 back in the account within 6 months. You have my word. I want you removed as co-trustee, I said. That's not going to happen, Richard said flatly. I'm legally authorized. You'd have to go to court to have me removed, and trust me, Walter, you don't want to do that. It would cost more in legal fees than the $5,000 I borrowed. Be reasonable. I'm your brother. I'm trying to help. Help, I repeated. The word tasted bitter. You stole from my grandchildren and you call it help. I borrowed, he corrected. Temporarily, you're overreacting. I left his house without another word. Drove home in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Helen rolled over and put her hand on my chest. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. If I take him to court, it'll cost money we don't have. It'll tear the family apart even more than it already is. And if you don't, then he gets away with it, and Emma and Lucas lose $5,000 that was meant for them. Helen was quiet for a moment then. Your father trusted you to protect that money. He made you promise. I closed my eyes. Saw Dad in that hospital bed, gripping my hand. Don't let them get cheated, he'd said. I promised him, I whispered. Then you have to fight, Helen said simply. Even if it's hard, even if it costs something. You promised. The next morning, I called a lawyer, a younger guy named James Brennan, who'd done some work for our neighbors a few years back. He agreed to meet with me, charged $200 for consultation. I sat in his office, much smaller than Mr. Peterson's, but newer, cleaner, and explained the situation, showed him the trust documents, the bank statements, the authorization form. James read through everything carefully. Finally, he looked up at me. Okay, here's the situation. If you want to remove your brother as co-trustee, you'll need to petition the probate court. You'll need to prove that he's mismanaging the trust or acting against the beneficiary's interests. The $5,000 withdrawal is evidence of that, but it's not rock solid. He can argue it was a legitimate investment strategy. It wasn't, I said. He took the money without telling me. That's not legitimate. I agree with you, James said, but in court these things get complicated. He'll argue that as co-trustee, he had the authority to make financial decisions. You'll argue that he violated the terms of the trust and the intent of the grantor, your father. It becomes a he said situation. So what do? Document everything, James said. Every communication with your brother about the trust, every transaction, build a paper trail. Meanwhile, I can file a petition to have him removed, but I need to be honest with you. It's going to cost money, probably $3,000 to $5,000 in legal fees, possibly more if it goes to a hearing. $3,000 to $5,000. Money I didn't have lying around. Money that would come out of our retirement savings or our emergency fund. I must have looked devastated because James added, there's another option. You could try to negotiate with him directly, get him to agree to step down as co-trustee voluntarily. That would avoid court costs. He won't step down, I said. He made that clear. Then your options are to go to court or to document everything and wait for him to make a bigger mistake. James said, I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality. I thanked him for his time, paid the consultation fee, and left. For the next few weeks, I did what James suggested. I documented everything. I checked the trust account every single day. I sent Richard an email formally requesting that he return the $5,000 within 30 days and that he resign as co-trustee. He never responded. The $5,000 didn't come back, not in 30 days, not in 60 days. In July, there was another withdrawal, $3,000 this time. I called Richard immediately. got his voicemail, left a message. You took another $3,000, that's $8,000 total. I want it back, Richard. All of it, and I want you off the account. He called back 2 hours later. It's still the same investment, Walt. It's going to pay off. You need to trust me. I trusted you and you stole from my grandchildren, I said. My voice was shaking with rage. This ends now, Richard. I'm going to court. I'm having you removed as trustee. Good luck with that, he said. And he hung up. I called James Brennan that afternoon. File the petition, I told him. I want my brother removed from the trust. I don't care what it costs. James filed the paperwork the following week, the petition to remove Richard as co-trustee and to compel him to return the withdrawn funds. We had a court date set for September, and that's when things got really ugly. Richard hired his own lawyer, some guy from a big firm in the city, probably cost him $300 an hour. They filed a counterpetition claiming that I was the one mismanaging the trust by refusing to allow proper investment opportunities. They claimed I was being unreasonable and emotional, that I was preventing the trust from growing for the benefit of the beneficiaries. Can you believe that? He stole $8,000 and somehow spun it into me being the bad guy. The worst part, though, was what happened with the family. Christine started a whisper campaign. I didn't realize it at first, but Helen heard about it from a mutual friend. Christine was telling people that I was being greedy, that I was trying to control all of Dad's money, that I was cutting Richard out of the inheritance. None of it was true, but it spread. Family friends started treating me differently. At church, people who'd known me for decades would give me these weird looks. A couple of them asked me directly, "Is it true you're fighting with Richard over your father's money?" How do you explain a trust to someone who doesn't understand estate law? How do you explain that it's not about the money, it's about honoring a promise to a dying man? I tried. God knows I tried. But the narrative Christine had created was simpler, easier to understand. Brothers fighting over inheritance. That's what people understood. And then there were the family dinners. In August, there was a family gathering for Madison's birthday. She was turning 12. Christine sent out an invitation to the whole family, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. Emma and Lucas were not invited. When my son David called to ask about it, Christine told him, "Given the current situation with Walter and Richard, we thought it would be best to keep the party small, family only." Emma and Lucas were family. They were Madison's cousins, but apparently they didn't count anymore. David didn't push it. He's not a confrontational person, but I saw what it did to Emma when she found out. She was 8 years old and she couldn't understand why suddenly her cousins didn't want her around. "Did I do something wrong, Grandpa?" she asked me. I had to swallow hard before I could answer. "No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, and it affects other people, but it's not your fault." "Is it because of the money Great-Grandpa left us?" She was 8 years old, and she'd figured it out. But then again, kids hear things. They pick up on conversations adults think they're not listening to. Emma was smart. She probably overheard David and Jenny talking about the situation, or heard me on the phone with the lawyer. "It's complicated," I told her, but I want you to know something. Your great-grandpa loved you very much. He wanted you and Lucas to have something special. That's all that matters." She nodded, but I could see the hurt in her eyes, the confusion. That's what Richard and Christine did. They took 2 innocent children and made them feel like they'd done something wrong by being loved by their great-grandfather. I'll never forgive them for that. The court hearing was scheduled for September 15th. A Friday morning, James prepared me for what to expect. He said it would probably be a short hearing, just an opportunity for both sides to present their arguments. The judge would likely take it under advisement and issue a ruling within a few weeks. I wore my only suit, the same one I'd worn to Dad's funeral. Helen came with me, held my hand in the courtroom. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, not like the ones you see on TV. Just a regular room with a judge's bench, a few tables, some chairs. Judge Morrison presided. She was a woman in her 50s, gray hair, reading glasses, no-nonsense expression. Richard was there with his lawyer, a slick-looking guy named Peterson, no relation to Dad's lawyer, in an expensive suit. Richard wouldn't look at me, just stared straight ahead. James presented our case first, explained that Richard had withdrawn $8,000 from the trust without proper authorization, without consulting me as co-trustee, and for purposes that were not in the beneficiary's best interests. He presented the bank statements, the withdrawal records, my emails requesting return of the funds. Then Richard's lawyer stood up. He was smooth, professional. He argued that Richard, as co-trustee, had full authority to make financial decisions regarding the trust. He claimed the withdrawals were for legitimate investment purposes and that the funds would be returned with interest. He presented what he said was documentation of an investment strategy, though the papers were vague, just printouts that looked official but didn't show any actual account numbers or specific investments. My client, Peterson said, has been attempting to grow the trust assets for the benefit of the minor beneficiaries. Mr. Walter Hayes, in his grief and emotional state following his father's death, has unfortunately interpreted these prudent financial decisions as malfeasance. The reality is that Mr. Richard Hayes has the children's best interest at heart and has been working diligently to ensure the trust grows rather than stagnates. It was all bullshit, every word, but it sounded good, professional, reasonable. James cross-examined Richard, asked him directly, "Did you consult with your co-trustee, Walter Hayes, before withdrawing the $5,000 in May?" "I don't recall," Richard said. "You don't recall whether you spoke to your brother before taking $5,000 that didn't belong to you." "Objection," Peterson said, argumentative. "Sustained," Judge Morrison said. "Rephrase, Mr. Brennan. Did you inform Walter Hayes before making the withdrawal?" "I may have mentioned it," Richard said. "We'd been discussing various options for managing the trust." Liar. We'd never discussed anything, but I couldn't prove it. It was my word against his. The hearing lasted 2 hours. At the end, Judge Morrison looked tired. She closed her folder and said, "I'll review the submitted materials and issue a ruling within 30 days. In the meantime, the court orders that no further withdrawals be made from the trust account without written consent from both co-trustees. That's all." 30 days. I had to wait 30 days. Helen and I went home. I felt defeated, exhausted. The whole process had been humiliating. Sitting in a courtroom, airing family dirty laundry in front of a judge and court reporters and whoever else happened to be there. "You did the right thing," Helen told me that night. "Your father would be proud of you for fighting." But I didn't feel proud. I felt tired and old and angry. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, 3 days after the hearing, I checked the trust account again. Another withdrawal, $2,000. Richard had taken another $2,000 3 days after a judge ordered him not to make any withdrawals without my consent. $10,000. That's how much Richard had stolen from my grandchildren by mid-September. $10,000 from a trust that was supposed to be sacred, untouchable. A promise from a dying man to 2 innocent children. I stared at that bank statement on my computer screen, and something inside me broke. Not broke like giving up, broke like a dam bursting. All the anger, all the pain, all the frustration of watching my brother betray our father's wishes, it all came flooding out. I called James Brennan immediately. It was 7 a.m. I didn't care. "He did it again," I said when James answered, his voice thick with sleep. Richard withdrew another $2,000. 3 days after the judge ordered him not to. He violated a court order, James. There was a pause. Then James said, his voice now sharp and awake, "That changes everything. That's contempt of court." print out that bank statement right now. Email me a copy. I'm filing an emergency motion today. I printed it, scanned it, sent it to James. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I started making copies of everything, and I mean everything. I went to the bank and requested complete records of the trust account going back to the day it was opened. Every transaction, every statement, every piece of paper they had. The bank manager looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't care. I paid the fee for copies, walked out with a folder, 3 inches thick. Then I went home and I went through my father's papers, all of them. Every box we'd packed up from his house before we sold it. His old tax returns, his insurance policies, his handwritten notes, and I found something. In a box of miscellaneous papers, tucked inside an old birthday card from Emma, I found a letter in my father's handwriting, dated December 2021, right after he'd set up the trust. The letter was addressed to me. It said, "Walter, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope the trust is doing what it's supposed to, helping Emma and Lucas build a good future. I wanted to put this in writing so there's no confusion after I'm dead. I set up the trust for Emma and Lucas specifically because they need it. Your brother's kids are blessed with opportunities mine never had. Madison and Tyler will be fine. But Emma and Lucas, they're working class kids like you and I were. They're going to need every advantage they can get. I know Richard might not understand this decision. He's always been sensitive about money, about fairness. But life isn't about equal, it's about need. You give to the people who need it most. I'm making you the sole trustee because I trust you completely. Don't let anyone pressure you into changing that. This money is for Emma and Lucas. Period. Not for investments, not for loans, not for anything else. You keep it safe until they're old enough to use it wisely. I love you, son. I'm proud of the man you are. Dad." I sat there in my cluttered spare room, surrounded by boxes of my dead father's life, and I cried, really cried, for the first time since his funeral, because here it was, in his own handwriting, clear as day. He wanted me as the sole trustee. He never intended for Richard to have access to that money, which meant the authorization form Richard had me sign was either a manipulation or an outright fraud. Either way, I had been tricked into giving my brother access to money he was never supposed to have. I scanned the letter, made 5 copies, put the original in a safe deposit box at the bank. This was my ammunition. This was Dad speaking from the grave, telling the truth about what he wanted. I sent a copy to James immediately with a note. "Found this in Dad's papers. Does this help our case?" James called me back within an hour. "Walter, this is exactly what we needed. This is direct evidence of your father's intent. It proves that he wanted you as sole trustee and that the trust was specifically and exclusively for Emma and Lucas. Combined with Richard's violation of the court order, we have a strong case for removal and restitution. What do we do now? Now we go back to court, but this time, we're not just asking for Richard to be removed as trustee. We're asking for him to be held in contempt, to be ordered to return every penny he took, and to pay your legal fees for having to bring this action. We're going for everything." The emergency hearing was set for October 3rd. In the 2 weeks between when James filed the emergency motion and the hearing date, Richard tried to contact me 3 times. I didn't answer. I didn't respond. I was done talking to him. He left me a voicemail after the 3rd attempt. His voice was strained, defensive. "Walt, come on. We're brothers. We shouldn't be doing this in court. Let's sit down and talk this through like adults. I can explain everything. The investments are going to pay off, I promise. Just drop the legal action and let's handle this as a family. Handle this as a family." That's rich, coming from the man who'd stolen from his niece and nephew and then tried to gaslight me about it. I saved the voicemail, added it to my evidence folder. Helen was worried about me during those 2 weeks. I wasn't sleeping well. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, my mind racing with everything that had happened, everything that still needed to happen. I'd go down to the kitchen and sit in the dark, drinking coffee, going over and over the case in my head. "You need to rest," Helen told me one night, finding me at the kitchen table at 4 a.m., surrounded by papers. "This is eating you alive." "He stole from our grandchildren," I said. "From Dad's legacy. How am I supposed to rest?" "Your father wouldn't want you to destroy yourself over this." "My father made me promise," I said, my voice breaking. "He looked me in the eye and made me promise to protect them, to not let them get cheated. How can I rest when I'm failing him?" Helen sat down next to me, took my hand. "You're not failing him, Walter. You're fighting for them. That's what he asked you to do. You're doing exactly what he wanted." I held onto her hand like it was the only solid thing in the world. The hearing on October 3rd was different from the first one, more intense, more formal. Judge Morrison started by addressing Richard directly. "Mr. Richard Hayes, I have before me a bank statement showing that on September 18th, 3 days after I explicitly ordered no further withdrawals from the trust account without written consent from both co-trustees, you withdrew $2,000. Did you make this withdrawal?" Richard's lawyer tried to intervene, but Judge Morrison held up her hand. "I asked Mr. Hayes a direct question. Did you make this withdrawal, yes or no?" Richard shifted in his seat. "Yes, Your Honor, but—" "There is no but," Judge Morrison said, her voice sharp. "You violated a direct court order. That is contempt of court. We'll address that in a moment. First, let's deal with the matter of the trusteeship." James stood and presented Dad's letter. He'd blown up the relevant portions on poster boards so the judge could read them clearly. Dad's handwriting. Dad's signature. "Your Honor," James said, "this letter, written by the grantor Thomas Hayes in December 2021, just weeks after establishing the trust, makes his intentions absolutely clear. He wanted Walter Hayes as the sole trustee. He specifically did not want Richard Hayes involved. The authorization that added Richard Hayes as co-trustee was either signed by Walter Hayes under false pretenses or is potentially fraudulent. Either way, it violates the clear intent of the grantor." Richard's lawyer, Peterson, objected. "Your Honor, this letter is dated before the authorization form. Mr. Thomas Hayes may have changed his mind. People change their estate plans all the time. Mr. Thomas Hayes died in March 2022. James interrupted. "This letter is dated December 2021. The authorization form is dated April 2022, 1 month after Thomas Hayes' death. He couldn't have changed his mind because he was dead." The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison looked at Richard. "Mr. Hayes, did you have Walter Hayes sign an authorization form adding you as co-trustee after your father had already passed away?" Richard's face went red. The estate was complicated. There were so many documents. Walter was grieving. I was trying to help organize everything. That's not what I asked. Did you have him sign a form adding you as co-trustee after your father's death?" "Yes," Richard finally admitted, "but I genuinely believed it was in everyone's best interests." "That is not your determination to make," Judge Morrison said coldly. "The grantor established a trust with specific terms and a specific trustee. You manipulated your grieving brother into signing a form that violated those terms. Then you proceeded to withdraw $10,000 from the trust for your own purposes, and you did so again even after I ordered you not to. Is that a fair summary?" Richard opened his mouth and closed it. Finally said quietly, "When you put it that way, it sounds worse than it was." "It sounds," Judge Morrison said, "like exactly what it was, theft and contempt of court." She looked down at her papers, made some notes. Then she looked up. "Here is my ruling. Richard Hayes is immediately removed as co-trustee of the Thomas Hayes Trust for Emma Hayes and Lucas Hayes. Walter Hayes is restored as sole trustee, as was the original intent of the grantor. Richard Hayes is ordered to return the full amount of $10,000 to the trust account within 30 days. Additionally, Richard Hayes is ordered to pay Walter Hayes' legal fees in pursuing this action. The court calculates those fees at $5,000 based on the documentation provided. Finally, Richard Hayes is found in contempt of court for violating the order of September 15th. He is fined $500 payable to the court. Richard's face went pale. His lawyer started to say something, but Judge Morrison cut him off. "I'm not finished. I am also ordering a full accounting of any investment accounts or other assets that Richard Hayes claims were funded with the trust money. If those accounts exist, the funds are to be returned immediately. If they do not exist, and Mr. Richard Hayes has simply spent the money, then he will be required to repay it from his personal assets. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, Your Honor," Richard's lawyer said quietly. "And one more thing," Judge Morrison said, looking at Richard. "I want to be very clear about this. You took money from your niece and nephew, children, your own family. You manipulated your brother during his grief. You violated court orders. If I see you in front of me again for anything remotely similar, I will not be lenient. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Richard whispered. "Good. This hearing is concluded." The gavel came down. I sat there in stunned silence. It was over. Just like that, after months of fighting, months of anger and pain and sleepless nights, it was over. James turned to me and shook my hand. "We won," he said simply. Helen, sitting behind me, put her hand on my shoulder and squeezed. Richard and his lawyer left the courtroom without looking at us. I watched them go, and I felt empty. Not triumphant, not vindicated, just empty, because this wasn't a victory. This was just setting things back to the way they should have been all along. The next 30 days were interesting. Richard didn't contact me, didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up at my house, but the money appeared in the trust account, all $10,000, transferred from his personal account 2 weeks after the hearing. The $5,000 in legal fees took longer. He paid it in 2 installments. But he paid it. And the investment account he'd claimed existed. James followed up with Richard's lawyer, demanding the documentation the judge had ordered. After 2 weeks of stalling, Richard's lawyer quietly filed a statement admitting that no separate investment account had ever been established. The withdrawn funds had been deposited into Richard's personal checking account and used for family expenses. Richard was repaying the trust from his own savings, family expenses. He'd spent my grandchildren's money on family expenses. Probably that trip to Martha's Vineyard I heard Christine talking about at church, or Madison's new car, or Tyler's private tennis lessons. He'd stolen from children to maintain his lifestyle. I drafted a letter to Richard, never sent it, but I wrote it anyway, late one night, just to get the words out of my head. "Dear Richard, I don't know if you'll ever understand what you did, not just the theft, though that's bad enough, but the betrayal of Dad's trust, the betrayal of my trust, the way you used our father's death as an opportunity to manipulate me. We were brothers. We grew up in the same small house, ate at the same dinner table, shared the same childhood. Dad loved us both. He provided for us both. And when he died, he left us both an inheritance. We each got $90,000 from the estate. But that wasn't enough for you, was it? You couldn't stand that Dad wanted to give something extra to Emma and Lucas. You couldn't stand that he saw a need in them that he didn't see in Madison and Tyler. So you lied, you manipulated, you stole, and you did it while our father was barely cold in his grave. I'll never forgive you for that. Not because of the money. Money can be repaid, but because you broke something between us that can never be fixed. You broke the trust that should exist between brothers. You broke the sanctity of a dying man's wishes. Emma and Lucas will get their money. That's assured now. But they lost something too. They lost their extended family. They lost cousins who should have been part of their lives. They lost the chance to grow up in a big, loving family because you decided to make this about greed instead of love. I hope whatever you spent that $10,000 on was worth it. I hope it was worth destroying our relationship. I hope it was worth defying Dad's wishes. I hope it was worth making 2 children feel unwanted at family gatherings. Because from where I'm sitting, you traded everything that matters for money you didn't need and didn't deserve. I'm done with you, Richard. We'll be civil at funerals and weddings if we have to be. But we're not brothers anymore, not in any way that counts. Walter, I never sent it, like I said, but writing it helped. It got the poison out. Life slowly returned to something like normal after that. The trust account sat there, whole again, growing with interest. I checked it every month, made sure everything was in order, took my role as trustee seriously because that's what Dad would have wanted. Emma and Lucas, they adjusted. Kids are resilient. They stopped asking about why they never saw Madison and Tyler anymore. They made other friends, built other relationships, but sometimes I'd catch Emma looking sad, and I'd know she was thinking about her cousins, about birthday parties she wasn't invited to, about a family that should have been there but wasn't, and it broke my heart every time. The final twist in this story came about 6 months after the court hearing. March 2023, almost exactly 1 year after Dad died. I got a call from Mr. Peterson, Dad's original lawyer. He sounded uncomfortable. Walter, I need to tell you something. Richard came to see me a few weeks ago. He wanted to know if there was any way to contest your father's trust, any loopholes, any legal strategies. And? I asked, my stomach sinking. I told him no. The trust is ironclad, but I thought you should know he's still looking for a way to access that money. He hasn't given up. I thanked Mr. Peterson for the warning and hung up. Richard was still trying, even after losing in court, even after being ordered to repay the money, even after being found in contempt. He was still trying to find a way to get his hands on Emma and Lucas's inheritance. That's when I realized something. This was never going to end. Richard would keep pushing, keep looking for angles, keep trying to justify why he deserved access to money that wasn't his. So I did something I probably should have done from the beginning. I restructured the trust. I worked with a different lawyer, not James, but someone who specialized in trust law. And we created an irrevocable trust with an independent corporate trustee. A bank would now manage the money. I'd still have oversight as the designated family representative, but all financial decisions would go through the bank's trust department. It cost me $2,000 to set up, worth every penny, because now Richard couldn't manipulate me. Couldn't trick me into signing anything, couldn't access the money even if he somehow convinced me to let him. The money was locked down, safe, untouchable. Exactly the way Dad wanted it. I told Emma and Lucas about all of this when Emma turned 10 and Lucas turned 12. It was the spring of 2024, about 2 years after their great-grandfather died. Sat them down at my kitchen table and explained the whole story. The trust, their great-grandfather's love for them, Richard's theft, the court case, everything. Lucas was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then he said, Uncle Richard stole from us? Yes, I said. He did, but I got it back. Every penny. It's all there, waiting for you both when you turn 25. Why did he do it? Emma asked. Her voice was small, hurt. Didn't he love us? How do you answer that? How do you explain to a child that sometimes people let greed override love? I think your uncle got confused about what matters in life, I finally said. He got so focused on money and what he thought was fair that he forgot about what's actually important. Family, trust, keeping your word. Did great-grandpa really want us to have that money? Lucas asked. More than anything, I said. I pulled out a copy of Dad's letter, and the one I'd found in his papers, and let them read it. He loved you both so much. He wanted to make sure you'd have opportunities, a good start in life. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she read the letter. I miss him, she whispered. I miss him too, sweetheart, I said. Every single day. Lucas looked at me, his young face serious. Thank you for fighting for us, Grandpa. I know it was hard. It was the easiest decision I ever made, I told him, because I made a promise to my father and because you two are worth fighting for. That was about a year ago now. Emma is 10 now, turning 11 soon. Lucas is 12, will be 13 this fall. The trust has grown. It's worth about $34,000 each now, thanks to compound interest and conservative investments managed by the bank. In another 14 and 15 years, respectively, they'll each receive their inheritance. They'll be able to use it for whatever they need, college, a house down payment, starting a business, whatever dreams they want to chase, and they'll know it came from their great-grandfather's love, from a man who worked 2 jobs his whole life so his family could have better opportunities than he did. As for Richard and me, we haven't spoken in nearly 3 years. We see each other occasionally at distant family events, funerals for extended relatives. We nod. We're polite, but there's nothing there. No warmth. No brotherhood. That died in a courtroom in October 2022. Christine still tries to maintain appearances on social media. Posts about family values and togetherness. Never mentions the nephew and niece who aren't in the pictures. Madison and Tyler are teenagers now. I wonder sometimes if they know what their father did, if they understand why their cousins stopped coming to family events. Probably not. Probably they were told some version of the story that makes them feel justified. That's fine. They'll figure it out eventually. Truth has a way of surfacing. The hardest part of all of this wasn't the court battles or the money or even the theft. The hardest part was accepting that my brother, the person I grew up with, shared a bedroom with, protected and was protected by, was capable of such betrayal. We grow up thinking we know the people we love, thinking that blood means something, that family is forever. And then something happens, money usually, or power, or jealousy, and you realize you didn't know them at all. Or maybe you did know them, but you didn't want to see it, didn't want to acknowledge that they were capable of choosing greed over integrity. I think about my father a lot, about the values he tried to instill in Richard and me. Hard work, honesty, taking care of family, keeping your word. I hope I honored those values. I hope Dad would be proud of how I handled this, how I fought for Emma and Lucas, how I kept my promise, but I also wonder what he'd think about Richard, about how one of his sons turned out to be the kind of man who steals from children. Would he be heartbroken, angry, disappointed? I'll never know. He's been gone for nearly 3 years now, and I still miss him every day. Sometimes late at night, I think about what I'd say to Richard if he ever actually apologized, if he showed up at my door, genuinely remorseful, willing to acknowledge what he did. Would I forgive him? Could I? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because forgiveness requires that the other person understands what they did wrong, really understands it, not just, I'm sorry I got caught, or I'm sorry we fought about it, but true understanding of the harm caused, true remorse. And I don't think Richard has that. I don't think he ever will. In his mind, he was justified. He was just trying to make things fair, just trying to provide for his own children, just making smart financial decisions. He'll never see himself as the villain in this story. He'll always be the victim, the brother who was treated unfairly, the father who was just trying to help his kids, the son who deserved an equal share. That's how people like Richard operate. They rewrite the narrative in their heads until they're always the hero, until their actions, no matter how wrong, are somehow justified. But I know the truth. I know what Dad wanted. I know what Richard did. And I know that I kept my promise. That's what matters. That's what lets me sleep at night. Emma. And Lucas will get what they were meant to have. They'll get the gift their great-grandfather wanted them to have. And they'll know absolutely and without question that They were loved, that someone fought for them, that their worth wasn't determined by money or social status or who had the bigger house. They were loved for who they were. Two good kids with kind hearts and bright futures. Everything else, the court battles, the legal fees, the broken family relationships, those were just the price of keeping a promise to a dying man. And I'd pay that price again, 1,000 times over, without hesitation. Because that's what family should mean. Not blood, not obligation, not inheritance or estates, or who gets what when someone dies. Family should mean keeping your word, protecting the vulnerable, doing what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something. That's what my father taught me. That's what I'm teaching my grandchildren. And that's what Richard will never understand. You don't need to burn a house down to win. You don't need to scream or threaten or destroy. Sometimes justice looks like patience, like documentation, like building a case brick by brick, like standing in front of a judge and presenting the truth calmly and clearly. Sometimes justice looks like a simple court ruling, like a number on a bank statement, like a letter written by a dying man to his son preserved in a safe deposit box. Sometimes justice looks like peace. My grandchildren are safe now. Their inheritance is protected. Their great-grandfather's wishes are being honored. And I can look at myself in the mirror every morning knowing I did what I promised to do. I protected them. I didn't let them get cheated. And when Emma turns 25 and receives her $30,000, and when Lucas turns 25 and receives his, they'll know exactly where it came from. It came from a man named Thomas Hayes who worked 2 jobs so his family could have better lives, who taught his great-grandson how to tie fishing knots, who read bedtime stories to his great-granddaughter, even when his voice was weak and his hands shook, who loved them enough to make sure they'd be taken care of even after he was gone. That's the story I'll tell them. That's the legacy that matters. Not the theft, not the betrayal, not the broken family relationships, or the court battles, or the years of silence between brothers, but the love, the promise kept, the trust honored. That's what endures. That's what matters in the end. My father knew that. He lived it every day of his life. And I'll be damned if I was going to let my brother take that away from his great-grandchildren. So, yeah, my grandkids were invisible at family dinners. They were treated like afterthoughts. They were excluded and overlooked and made to feel like they didn't matter. But I saw them. I fought for them. And I made sure they got what was rightfully theirs, not because I'm a hero, not because I'm special, but because I made a promise. And where I come from, a promise means something.